The iPhone 15 Pro in titanium blue. The 15 Pro is almost 20 grams lighter than the 14 Pro, thanks to the new titanium housing. Comes with a nice braided cable this year. This is the Australian model. So no millimeter wave antenna, and yes, SIM card slot. This is Apple's first phone with USB-C. Over there. I'll place the phone down on a heat mat for a minute to soften the adhesive, before securing it in the REFOX RS50 to pull it open. I'll add a few drops of isopropyl alcohol along the seams to help it along, so I don't overbend the display. Then I can stick a pick under the screen to keep it open. I'd like to thank PCBWay for sponsoring the channel, but also for providing the greatest hub of technical prototyping. Services normally reserved for high-end manufacturing, now available to the public. You can get your own custom circuit boards from only $5 for 10 pieces. PCBWay can also assemble it for you, starting from just $30. Or maybe you need a flexible PCB, an aluminium one, or a high-density board. The experts at PCBWay have got you covered. Their excellent support can help you find the right service for your needs. PCBWay, prototype the easy way. The bezels on the iPhone 15 range are the thinnest yet, but the adhesive holding it down is still very strong. I'll disconnect the battery first, before the single screen flex cable and the light sensor. The 15 Pro has a new thinner plastic frame around the screen border, which I'm guessing has a higher surface energy to make the display's thinner bezels possible. The only component on the screen assembly is the proximity sensor, as the dynamic island is just part of the display, with cutouts for the camera and sensors. Alright, let's unclip some little Legos. No metal shield for the camera module, but otherwise a very similar camera setup as the 14 Pro. With a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera with no OIS, a 48 megapixel main sensor with second generation sensor shift stabilization, and a 12 megapixel telephoto camera with 3x optical zoom and second gen sensor shift OIS. At the top of the phone we have our first loudspeaker. as well as the front-facing camera assembly, with a 12 megapixel selfie camera with OIS and the Face ID camera and projector. Removing the motherboard gives us our first indication at the new sandwich design, where the back glass is now removable on the Pro models. The wireless charging coil is plugged into the back of the board, so it can be disconnected when opening the phone from the back. But thanks to this concertina ribbon cable, it can be unplugged from the front as well. This is a double stacked motherboard featuring the A17 Pro 3nm chip. The SIM tray is soldered to the board. This is the LiDAR sensor. At the bottom of the phone we have the lower loudspeaker. The vibration module or taptic engine, which is a tiny bit smaller than last year's. To remove the charging port assembly, I'll first need to remove the battery. There's one battery pull tab at the top, but I'll need to remove some cables first to access it, including the cable for the side buttons, which snakes across the phone. This didn't help much, as the remaining pull tab is still wedged behind this metal wall, which I can barely get my tweezers behind. Not to worry though, as the top pull tab is pretty small and the battery can simply be twisted out, revealing the A3011 with a rated capacity of 3274 mAh and a typical capacity of 3290, which is about 2% larger than last year's. Now the charging port is not intended to be removed without taking off the back glass first, as there are two metal tabs blocking these screws. But if you don't want to remove the back glass to replace the charge port, you can either bend these tabs down or try to get your screwdriver around them. These tabs make it a bit tricky to remove the assembly, but with a bit of finagling I managed to pull it out. Here's our first look at Apple's new USB-C port, along with the barometer and two lower microphones. The USB-C port has the full 24 pins to enable the USB 3 speeds found only on the Pro models. Here we have the top antenna flex cable, and this is where the millimeter wave antenna would be on the North American variants. Removing the side button flex, we get a closer look at the new action button, which is indeed a button. The remaining components cannot be removed from this side. This includes the wireless charging coil, the camera flash, and the 5G antenna. For that, we'll need to take the back off. This was harder than I anticipated, so I cut in from the inside for fear of cracking the glass. But once I got it started, my card sliced through the adhesive pretty easily. One thing you need to be aware of when pulling the glass off are these two clips at the top.